Do you hear that? Those are the whispers in the well, and it's time that we find out what's going on down there. Hello, Illumineers. It is time to take a rest from your quest and check on into the Lorekeeper's Inn. And it is my favorite time of the season where we talk about the reveals. So we just got done with the Lorecast and learned all about what's coming up in the two newest sets and even a little bit about the one after that. So that is set 10, 11, 12, which is kind of insane that we're that far along in the game. But either way, we're going to go over what we learned and then I'll let you kind of know my thoughts and we'll kind of discuss what we think that's going to mean for the game. Whispers in the Well is going to come out in November. So specifically November 7th is when it's going to hit the LGSs, the local game stores, as well as some Disney park locations and Disney stores. And then the broad release will be on November 14th. So same kind of week apart staggered release. And this set is interesting because we're going to see some new mechanics. So the first thing that I'll talk about is Boost. Boost is a mechanic that's going to be playing around with the cost of a card. So when you talk about boost cost, it is optional. So you don't have to play the boost cost when you play the card. In fact, you never have to pay the boost cost. However, if you don't, then you don't really get the fun effect mentioned on it. So they showed us a few. A lot of them were the promo cards, but the first one we'll look at is the 4-cost inkable Jasmine Soothing Princess. She is a 2/5 and she has boost of 2. And for those that are new to boost, which is all of us, that's once during your turn you may pay 2 to put the top card of your deck face down under the character. So you're paying to boost by putting the card underneath it. So then you have Uplifting Aura, which is her ability of whenever this character quests, if there's a card under her, so if you paid the boost cost, you can remove up to 3 damage from each of your characters. So obviously if you play her and she's just a 2/5, just a simple 2/5 that quests for 2, that's fine. But then if you pay that boost cost and you put a card underneath her, then you're getting the benefit of the healing effect. So I think this is interesting. Obviously, we see a new keyword here of Whisper, so that's very exciting. That's a new card type. I think it's going to take some time to kind of see how this plays out. I am famously not an architect myself as far as knowing when things are worth putting in a deck, but I do think this will be fun. We've seen Jasmine come into her own in some Sapphire Steel ally type decks, so this could be fun, and this is definitely something where it's going to be interesting. I mean, the boost cost is going to vary from card to card. This is just the first one that we're looking at here. Another one we have is Zeus Missing His Spark, which is a 3-cost inkable, which is a 2/3 and it has a boost cost of 2 as well. And he has I Need More Thunderbolts. While there's a card under this character, he gets +2 strength and +2 willpower. So you're kind of beefing him up. And like I mentioned, it's interesting because, I mean, playing a 3-cost 2/3 that quests for 2 is quite fun, but then obviously you have that enticing thing of boosting it, which it doesn't have to be when you play it. So that's kind of the fun thing, is a lot of times you have to make that decision. Go-Go Tamago is a classic example of you have to pay that extra cost and you have to make that decision as you play it. Boost, that's not the case. You just get to play the card and then later decide if you're going to boost it. This next card we have is a uninkable card. It is Scar, another Scar for those Scar fans out there, of Eerily Prepared. He is a 5-cost uninkable, 6/5, and he has boost 2 as well. So now I'm like, are they all 2? That's very interesting. So he has Survival of the Fittest. Whenever you put a card under this character, chosen opposing character gets -5 strength this turn, and he quests for 2. So this one is exciting. Obviously, anything that lowers the power of your opponent's card is quite nice. And this is one where it's not a static effect. It is whenever you put it under. So the boost cost you can do multiple times. Now, multiple times throughout the game, not per turn, because it's once per turn you can boost the character. So it's interesting. It kind of seems like there are times where you boost and that's kind of everlasting on it, versus this card, you boost it and that turn you get the benefit of boosting. I do also think it's kind of interesting to think about when you boost, that puts the card underneath it. And then if you do something like a Hades or an Into the Unknown, suddenly is there 3 cards underneath it? You're sending 4 cards in the inkwell? Will that change people's decisions to do it? I hope so. Hades, please stop coming for my cards. So to make sure that I wasn't convinced that all boosts are 2, we have one where it's actually a boost 1 cost, and that is Robin Hood Ephemeral Archer. And I have to think that was done for Liam and his love of the word ephemera, so I imagine this will be his favorite card. But this is a 4-cost steal. It is inkable, a 2/4, and like I mentioned, boost cost of 1. And this is whenever this character quests, if there's a card underneath him, deal 1 damage to up to 2 chosen characters. So very fun. Anytime you deal damage, it's good. I I think that this is interesting because we've seen this with Robin Hood before where he's pinging things around with damage. But I also think this is an interesting example that this is you boost it and you don't really have any benefit to ever boost him again because it's just you have the card underneath him. It's a one-time cost. So while some of these you are boosting over and over again, this is one where it costs 4, but to get the benefit, it's really 5. But like I said, you get to spread out the cost, which is nice as a player to kind of maybe build that into curve differently, where you think about the cost to play it with building in mind the next turn you might be playing a character that's also the same cost, but you plan to do some boosty action. Now this next card is very interesting to me because wow, is that expensive. It is a 7 cost inkable. It's Simba, King in the Making. Now I do want to take a moment to say, big fan of the art here. We talk about shape language. The first time I remember this being talked about was in D23. There was a panel and they had like a chart up, which reminded me very much of like those quizzes you take where it's like, name your shape language or something like that, because it was all about like the personalities. And so you can tell the artist worked a lot to put those shape language into the cards. And then also they're spooky. They're like little wispy whispers. So I'm a big fan of the art of these and the flavor of it all, but it is 7 ink. And then you boost it, which is 3. So whenever you put a card under this character, you may reveal the top card of your deck. So it costs 7, and then to boost it, you pay 1, and then, or you pay 3 to boost it once. And then whenever you do that, you may reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a character card, you may pay that character for free and the interplay exerted. Otherwise, put it on the bottom of your deck. So Mufasa fans rejoice because we get kind of that fun of like, oh, what could it be? It could be anything. But wow, I don't know. I am trying to imagine a time where I'm like resplendent with ink. Obviously, we have cards that can cheat things in sooner, but this is a lot. Now we have a emerald card. This is a 3 cost inkable of Megara, if you will. She's Secret Keeper. She's a 3/4 and she has boost of 1. And so while there's a card under this character, she gets +1 lore and gains whenever this character is challenged. Each opponent chooses and discards a card. So discard fans rejoice. You know, we don't have Diablo or Prince John, but Megara is here to say, don't worry, I can handle this. This next card is exciting because it is our first epic. So I have personally very much enjoyed these epics because it makes me feel like I am doing a good thing by opening booster packs, because I'm like, listen, I'm probably not going to pull an enchanted, but I can definitely pull an epic or 2, and I have. So this one is a 2 cost uninkable. Gaston, Frightful Bully, and Amber. He's a 3/3 with a boost cost of 2. And whenever this character quests, if there's a card underneath him, chosen opposing character can't challenge and must quest, if able to, their next turn. So I love this. This is like reverse Reckless, and I think it's fun where it's like, hey, don't challenge me. Go get out there. Go quest. So I think that's fun. Now, it is something where just like Reckless, you can get around it with some singing. So that's the benefit to having songs, is like, listen, I'm not gonna be questing, I'm not gonna be challenging, I will be singing. But I am quite interested to see how this plays out. It is uninkable, but I've been loving the future of Amber Steel. We've learned that, you don't need songs in Amber Steel to be a viable deck. So I'm interested to see if Gaston will be a disruptive tool in the decks to kind of throw off a more challenge heavy deck. I would love very much to put this on Calhoun and say, Calhoun, calm down, go on a quest. You quest for 1 and you never do it. So go ahead and see how that goes. So speaking of new rarities, we got a look at 2 of the iconic cards. So iconic cards were introduced in Fabled, and we saw Mickey and Minnie, which are, one would argue the 2 most iconic characters. So the question is, are we going to see iconics again? And the answer is yes. But it's not Mickey and Minnie, it's the 2 power duo of Ariel and Hades. And I joke, they're not a duo. They've never been associated in their life. But I will say there are 2 more popular characters in the game Disney Lorcana. So, obviously Ariel, we have seen since set 1 being a meta breaker. And same with Hades. So I think, if we're talking about iconic characters and iconic Disney Lorcana characters, they are definitely 2 iconic characters to talk about. So the first one, Ariel, is Ethereal Voice. She's Amber, 4 cost, inkable, and she's a 3/4. She has boost 1 and command performance. So once during your turn, whenever you play a song, if there's a card under this character, you may draw a card. So a 1-time boost cost, and if we talk about songs decks becoming more of a thing, then it will definitely be more advantageous. However, I would like to note that there's not many decks running a ton of songs right now. We obviously still see Strength of Raging Fire in any Steel deck, and Steel pairs quite excellently with Amber. However, if you're playing this card with the effect, you're paying this on turn 5. Is that enough? Are you doing a lot of late game songs? Some people might change the way the deck performs, but traditionally you play strength as early and often as possible. You're either singing it on turn 4 now that we don't have Surrenderella Ballroom Sensation. So I think it would require some other cards to make it as strong as we would want it to be. I do think it'd be fun if we had a time machine and could insert this card back in a time where Ariel was doing more spectacular things. But it is fun, and I am excited to see how this card plays out. As we know, when a card comes out, it's not always the most powerful it will be. We've seen cards all the time be printed, and it takes a while. For example, Belle Accomplished Mystic was a card that got printed and saw very little play until we all went, oh wait, that's really good, and rotation happened, which the power of those two things together made it where a card that people overlooked suddenly made us look at it again. So I think this is a card that will only get more powerful. However, I don't know if right now you'll see it in every deck the minute it comes out. So the other iconic of the iconic duo is the 5-cost inkable Amethyst card of Hades Looking for a Deal. He has a 3/4 strength and willpower and has what do you say of when you play this character, you may choose an opposing character. If you do, draw 2 cards unless that character player puts that card on the bottom of their deck. So you're wheeling and dealing, which I do quite like. The flavor on there is immaculate. Is it good enough? I mean, you are paying this on turn, well, depending if it's in a ramp deck or not. You're playing it kind of mid-game. I don't know if it's strong enough. Is it the best way to draw 2 cards by trying to negotiate with your opponent? Time will tell on that, but I will say the art is exciting because they kind of hint on how it's going to look, and you see these little lore pips. I don't know if that's a scientific name of the little lore stars. I think they are called story stars, but either way, I like calling them pips. And you do see that they're going to be some layering here, and I imagine these cards are going to look great in person. If you haven't seen an iconic in person, they are wonderful. I don't have any, but I did see Steve Warner had the most shiny deck I've ever seen in my life at PPG in Denver, and he was letting people he was holding it as if it were a jettisoned burger wrapper. It was just like he'd put it down and he'd be like, oh, you can touch it, and it was 4 of each of the iconics, and then everything else was an enchanted or an iconic. I passed out from holding it. It was very, very powerful, but seeing those cards in person kind of gave me a little bit of like, maybe I need this. And then I remembered how much they cost, and I said, I don't. But I do think these iconic cards are very cool. It adds another layer to the collecting and pack opening experience. So I think it's an all around good thing. And it's exciting to see that it's not just, it's not going to be the Fab Five forever, Fab Five, if you don't know, Disney, is Mickey, Minnie, Goofy, Donald, Pluto, Daisy. You're not invited, okay? She's not invited into the club. But that is, the classic Disney characters. We're now moving out and we're going into a wider net. So I think these are fun and exciting. Not as exciting as Mickey and Minnie was. Mickey and Minnie made me kind of debate, like, do I want to buy one? Would I trade for one? This is one where I don't think I'll be spending money to go get a Hades and Ariel. However, in the Disney world of like the Disney fandom, there's a buyer for every product. So I do think there are people out there freaking out and going, Ariel, that's my character. Hades, oh my gosh. So I think it's still exciting, and I think it's just kind of wait your turn, because then there's going to be a Stitch iconic, and then I'll be an absolute sicko. So speaking of new, we have a couple other new things that we're seeing in the game. So one thing that we saw is Inkwell interaction that we haven't necessarily seen printed yet. So we were able to see a 6-cost card of Daisy Duck Paranormal Investigator. So this one is exciting for a couple reasons. So we got to see she is the set champ card. So we got 2 versions, the normal and then the set champ version. So, yay, I just said Daisy's not invited to the Fab Five. Well, you are invited to set champs. So congratulations on that. And she is a Floodborn. So we can now shift the Daisy. I always like to make little jokes of, well, you're going to shift the blah, 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 like shift the Tifo, shift the Daisy, Donald's date. Yeah. Maybe I will. And this card you get a shift for the low price of 4, and she has support. So support, something we've seen be very prevalent in this meta that can be very helpful. Basil has been the #1 culprit of support in the Blurple or Sapphire Amethyst decks. So she's got support, and at 4 strength, that is very tempting. And while this character is exerted, cards enter your opponent's inkwells inserted. So kind of fun that you get to interact with your opponent's inkwell. Not super impressive. It's not something where your ink doesn't ready and it's like completely like taking you out of the game, but it changes the math. And I think any card that changes the math of your opponent, whether it be how they challenge, how they play, how they quest, is important. And this is a new type of interaction that we're going to be having to be mindful of in the new set. In the same vein of promotional cards that we got a chance to look at, there was a couple other promotional cards we saw. We have a weekly play promotion of the Great Illuminary, so more locations, which is exciting. We had a lot of locations. Locations debuted in set 3 with Into the Inklands, and a lot of locations got rotated out. So it is exciting seeing the rotation build back up the locations that we might be able to play. This one is an Amethyst 2-cost inkable, and it is 1 cost to move there, 3 willpower, and it has Startling Discovery, characters gained, exert, and draw a card while here. So, not super stunning. 3 is a shockingly low strength for a location. Lots of things can hit for 3, and as we know, you don't take any damage, so I feel like this is pretty slow, and there's other ways to draw a card, so I'd be surprised if this is a meta breaker. However, locations are fun. I think locations are very fun and limited because it just kind of gets you some lore and adds some benefits. But the fact that it costs 2 and you're paying 1 to move there, and then you can't quest because you have to exert the character to draw the card. It's not like other locations we've seen where just being in that location, like a Queen's Tower, I'm trying to think, Queen's Castle. That one is one where you got to draw a card because you were there. This one you have to exert it. So it's just, it's interesting, and this is another thing I'll talk about in some of the other cards we got revealed, is that it's hard to be a player for the game and see cards that remind you of a cooler card, because you're like, oh yeah, this is like that one card that was really good. We've seen that with, Elena as a character, or like, it's like Crab, but like not as good. And this is kind of, I'm like, oh, it's like, it's like another location, but not as good. And that's fine, because we do have to make sure we don't have too much power creep, but it is, as a player, kind of sad, because you're like, I remember when I had a lot of power, and now it's not that way. Now the next card that is going to be a promo is Elsa Exploring the Unknown, and this one is a 3-cost inkable, and she is a 1/3, and she has, when you play this character, you may draw a card, and she quests for 1. So is that kind of expensive to draw a card? Yes. As we know, there is a card from set 1, Elsa Spirit of Winter. She has an enchanted that is quite expensive, the most expensive enchanted in the game currently. And that is a shift card. So this is something that may see play. I mean, we've even seen some weaker Elsas sneak their way in and out of the meta because it's nice to have more options. And drawing a card is always great. Drawing a card is extremely important in Sapphire Amethyst, to the point where we saw Second Star to the Right, which is a 10-cost card, be played, because you need to fuel the things that happen in the Blurple Amethyst Sapphire deck. So this is a card we might see some play in. It's on its surface not very exciting because it's a 1/3, and paying 3 for a 1/3 doesn't feel good. She quests for 1, but being able to draw a card, working her into a curve that's already kind of congested might be nice. So I'm excited to see how she pairs with Fifth Spirit and the Spirit of Winter, because shout out to her. She's one of the few characters that's had a really great run of her cards just always seeing pretty steady play. The next thing we can talk about is the new franchises. So we have 2 new franchises to note in this set. So the first one is Gargoyles. Now, listen, I am a Disney adult, and I don't want anyone to take that from me. However, I've not seen every Disney film and TV show, and I have not seen Gargoyles. I remember seeing the commercial, but I thought that's for boys, and I didn't watch it. But Demona is very obviously a girl, so why would I put that on myself? I should have been watching it. So people, there's always like something that comes out, you're like, whoa. It's kind of like Powerline came out, and the amount of people were like, I'm a Powerline adult. I was like, what? So I can't wait to find out who are my friends that are Gargoyle adults. But here we have Demona, who is a 6-cost inkable, Scourge of the Vervin clan. And she's got add Saxum Communicate. When you play this character, exert all opposing characters. Then each player with fewer than 3 cards in their hand draws until they have 3. And she also has Stone by Day. If you have 3 or more cards in your hand, this character can't ready, which is fun. That's flavor. She's a gargoyle. She's like, I'm frozen into stone. And she does quest for 2. So this is fun. I mean, it's a legendary, and it's definitely a new kind of interaction that we have not seen in cards before. But this is one where I'm so overwhelmed by the energy of this card is so different than other Lorcana cards. This lady is she's given an energy of I'm just like, whoa, what are you doing here? And so I'm excited to see what she's up to in this game. I don't know if that effect is good. Looking at it, I need to ponder it a little harder. I think I'm just so overwhelmed by the weight of all this card as a complete package where I don't have any thoughts on it quite yet. Speaking of things I can't speak about with much authority, we have Henwen. And you might say, Henwen? Hen what? Well, Henwen is from the movie Black Cauldron. So, speaking of that D23 presentation I went to, it was hinted that they were going to have Black Cauldron. And here we are with Henwen, the prophetic pig. You know him, you love him. He's a 2-cost inkable sapphire card with 1/4. And whenever this character quests, look at the top card of your deck. Put it on either the top or bottom of your deck. So you got a little fun developing your brain, develop your pig. And I think it's fun. I mean, anytime you have a card that is an effect on a body, you generally will see people be more interested in it. However, it's a 2-cost, and are we ever not ramping on 2? I've never seen it, but maybe you're not playing it on curve. We'll see. But either way, very cute. I will say I like the look of this pig. But speaking of Henwen and his abilities, we also have Henwen's Visions. So this is another one where I kind of mentioned earlier, there's cards where you're like, hey, this is familiar, but it's not so good compared to what I remember. And that is it's a 1-cost inkable. So obviously inkable is always more exciting. But it is an action of looking at the top 4 of your deck, top 4 cards of your deck, put 1 on the top of your deck and the rest at the bottom in any order. So you're not even drawing it. So this is another one where it's kind of like, ooh, oh, and then you kind of read it and go, I don't know. And so I think this is an interesting one. However, once again, very charmed by this little pig. And then we have a quote here from everyone's favorite Disney character, Tehran, of Henwen, from you I do beseech knowledge that lies beyond my reach. I have to see this movie. What is going on in it? Is it about the pig? Is it about the cauldron? Who's Tehran? More to come. I do think that's a fun thing about Disney Lorcana is it has made me go, I need to get into my Disney Plus. So I do think Disney Lorcana should come with like a little promo code to be like, hey, you don't know this, sign up for Disney Plus. So that's some synergy we might be missing here, because at least every set there's something where I'm like, I need to watch that because I do not know what's going on. But speaking of the Black Cauldron, we have the titular Black Cauldron on a card. Very cool looking, by the way. I feel an enchanted coming. I don't know because I don't know, but it feels good. Like looking at it, it's an amber card. We got like the emerald spooking or like the emerald creeping in on it. It's a 3-cost uninkable, and it is 2 abilities here. We have the Cauldron Calls, where you exert it and you pay 1 ink, and you put a character card from your discard under this item face up. So we're doing the under, it's like a boost again. But then you also have the second one of Rise and Join Me, where it's exert and you pay 1, and this turn you may play characters from under this item. So that's kind of fun. It's kind of, we talk about cards where you have, you play from your hand, then you also can play from your discard, and now you can play from the Black Cauldron. So it's kind of like you're not discarding it, you're moving things from your discard to this, and then you have that to be able to play. So it's kind of a lot of moves there to be getting value out of a card, but it's a new way to store up things. And then like it says, you get to play it from under this item. Not for free. If I said for free, I need to go back and make sure, because it's not for free. You have to pay. So it's pretty expensive and kind of awkward, but it's nice. I'm interested to see how this plays into things. It's not a very expensive item. So once again, need to see this movie. What is the Black Cauldron? Does it do resurrection? More to come. I can't wait to find out. Maybe in my next video, I'll be the world's foremost Black Cauldron expert. Now, I do know from my time, being in the Disney universe, people said the Black Cauldron, that has the most biggest, baddest bad guy ever. And one of them, it's the Horn King. So this card is the Horn King, subtype Heartless Devil. So in your mind, you're like, oh, it is a 1-cost inkable 2/2 request for 1. So it's kind of cute. I think that's very fun that the Horn King gets a little baby card. He's even kind of like, don't underestimate me. Which is fair, because he also had another card revealed of Wicked Ruler. So that is a Floodborn. So you can shift onto that tiny little baby Horn King. And then you get this very metal cover looking man here. He's a 4-cost inkable, shift for 2, 3/4, Amethyst, and Arise. Whenever one of your other characters is banished in a challenge, you may return that card to your hand, then choose and discard a card, and then he quests for 2. So Amethyst has a lot of card draw traditionally, so it's probably, if you're playing this, you have more card draw, so you're not in a situation where it's bouncing to your hand and you immediately discard it. So that's nice, but it is one of those kind of effects where I read it and I'm like, okay, I don't see it yet, but maybe. So I don't know. I'm not even sure what the Horn King is up to. I assume he's the bad guy. He doesn't look good. I've never seen a good guy with giant red eyes. That's a skeleton. So that's another card where I don't know what to think yet, but I'm excited to think about it. One of my favorite things about these little conferences that they've been doing is they tell you about the next set, but then they'll also tell you about the set after that set, and then the set after that set. So you get kind of a little bit of a teaser of a teaser of a teaser, which I personally like because it gives me kind of a where are we going, where are we headed. And so this set that's coming after Whispers in the Well is Winterspell. So similar to every set where there's the release and then the wide release, this one comes out in February. So it's going to come out on February 13th with the wide release on February 20th. And I am over the moon excited because it's a theme set. It's winter. And I'm very excited about that because the sky is the limit when it comes to these kind of theme sets. Because, you know, Whispers in the Well, would it have been smart to have ghosts at Halloween time? Yeah, but ghosts can happen at any time of the year. So write that down. And I think it's exciting that we're seeing this Winterspell and it's coming out in February, which is kind of late winter, but either way I'm excited because, you know, it kind of speaks to the direction they're going, that a set can have a seasonal thematic, and seasonal thematic it does have. We got to see the early art at Gen Con of Stitch and Angel doing a snowball fight, and then we also got to see the product art and we saw like a Tinkerbell in a little cozy thing. That made me think of the Tinkerbell Extended Universe, which is a whole thing, by the way, where there's Tinkerbell movies and she's up to stuff. She has Tinkerbell friends. There's Tinkerbell Ride in Tokyo Disney where you just get to go to the Tinkerbell Village. There's a mouse, I think, named Cheese. It's wonderful. So I'm excited to see, like, maybe that's where things are going. But either way, we got to see a couple cards. So since we were already talking about franchises that I'm not super familiar with but are coming right at you, we have the Darkwing Duck family of products coming. We have a card called Launchpad. It is a 2-cost uninkable steal, which is Launchpad, trusty sidekick. He is a 2/3 with an ability of what do you need? You get to exert him and draw a card, then choose and discard a card unless you have a character named Darkwing Duck in play. So this is fun. We've seen choose and discard a card a couple times. Obviously, the most recent one that we see played in Steel is Mulan, who's a disguised soldier. But this one, you might get to keep it if you have a Darkwing Duck. You might say, Katie, I don't have a Darkwing Duck. I've never had a Darkwing Duck. Where would I get one? Don't worry. A Darkwing Duck was revealed, and I assume there'll be more. But this one is a Sapphire 4-cost, uninkable, and he is a dashing gadget here at 3/5, questing for 1 with Modern Marvel. Whenever this character quests, you may put an item card from your discard on the bottom of your deck. If you do, you may play an item with 5 cost or less from your discard for free. So you're moving stuff around. I am excited to see that the items are back on the menu. There was a time, set 7, where if you weren't playing a Sapphire items deck, what were you doing? You had Ruby or you had Steel. Pair it with Sapphire, you've got a deck going. But that, unfortunately, is not on the menu right now. We lost Hiram, we lost Fortosphere. Now we don't have Popsicle, but, and we always have those, by the way. If you want to play it, there's Infinity. It's up and coming. You don't hear it a lot. There hasn't been a lot of Infinity tournaments quite yet, but they are at the DLCs as side events, and eventually there will be an Infinity DLC. So I'm excited to see cards like this because it kind of gets your brain flowing to cards that we may have loved and lost, and also kind of lets you know that maybe they will be supporting these with more exciting items. But note, this duck is in a winter wonderland. So I'm very excited that this winter art is going to carry through. It looks like in the set at large. Now, I talked about the art having Stitch and Angel having a little snowball fight, and we have a card that makes my heart sing with happiness. It is Stitch, Carefree Snowboarder. So in set 1 and also Fabled, we had Carefree Surfer, and now he's snowboarding. Look at this. Put him in the X Games. Stitch can do anything. He's a 5-cost. He's inkable. He's a 4/5, and he quests for 2 with Bring Your Friends. Whenever this character quests, if you have 2 or more characters in play, you may draw a card. So reminiscent of Carefree Surfer, which is, when you play it, if you have 2 or more characters, you can draw a card. One thing I have noticed is that when you have a card that the ability happens the minute you play it, that's always generally better than saying, don't worry, you'll be around next turn, because you won't always be around next turn in the game. Now, he is a nice sizable 5-cost willpower. I'm probably going to talk about this card too much because I will defend any Stitch card until I no longer can talk, because I'm always very excited. But look at this flavor text. So first one down the mountain gets all the marshmallows for the cocoa, and that's Lilo. So Lilo, are you snowboarding too? I hope so. My goodness, I love that very much. May we get a cocoa item, please. But we do have one more card, and this card I'm very excited about. I saved it for last. Now, it's a very big thing that I'm excited about this card, because when I saw it, it's Angel, and I don't love Angel as a character because basically they had Stitch and then they made sequels and they said, what if more Stitch? And there's a whole thing about the other 625 experiments, and I don't personally care for that. I like the first one and maybe a little bit of sequels as a treat. This is too much. But then you read the card and you're like, Katie, put that aside. We have some things to talk about. So Angel is a 2-cost Inkable Amber. She's Siren Singer, is a 2/2, and she has the ability of Underdog. If this is your first turn and you're not the first player, so you're on the draw, you may pay 1 less to play this character. And then she's a Singer 3. So the gears are coming together. She's Cinderella Ballroom Sensation, but for being on the draw. And she's a 2/2. So it's very exciting because this says a couple things that the folks at Ravensburger are thinking about the play draw disparity. This has been a very big thing in this meta that we're in set 9, and people talk a lot about, did you win the die roll? Can you win if you're on the draw? And something like this very much speaks to the fact that they want to address this and they want to make cards that will help that play draw disparity. Now, will it matter? Will it be too overpowered? What does this mean? Are we going to get one of these in every ink color? Multiple of these in every ink color? Will it not happen until Winterspell? Many questions, and I am very excited to see more of this. I think anything that gives you an advantage like this, where it's basically if you have it in your deck, you have something that your opponent isn't able to do, it makes it where people will probably like it. So then whatever these cards do, like let's say there's one of each in color where you have something that on the draw you're able to do something that's more powerful than your opponent, or rather keeps you in lockstep with their abilities. It makes it where whatever that card is kind of speaks to very heavily what they want the identity of that color to be, and then will people be including 4 of no matter what. So lots of questions come up with this card, but it's very exciting, and it makes me forget the beef I have with Angel as a character and just kind of get excited because I really miss Amber Steel mid-range and having that Cinderella Ballroom Sensation just being there and menacing from the very start of the game. And Angel's here to say, don't worry, menacing is back on the menu. And so excited to see what songs come out with this and how she works out. She's also an alien, which alien's a subtype that, we have Lilo, who has the ability to do some interaction with alien cards. So I'm excited to see how that all synergizes and if we are going to see Lilo Stitch alien singing decks on the menu. Please, if we can, I'd like to order that. Very last thing I'll talk about is that there is a set coming after the Winterspell set. So we have, our set 10, which is going to be Whispers in the Well, and then keeping the W theme going, we have set 11, which is Winterspell. And after that, we have set 12, and that is the set that has Pixar. So we talked about Pixar way back in that D23 panel, and then we heard about it again at Gen Con, and now we know the name of the set that's coming out in Q2 of 2026 is going to be Wilds Unknown. So very fun, very this is like the WWW block where we're getting W's all the way down, and Wilds Unknown is going to be unknown because we know Pixar's coming. They've shown Buzz and Woody. Can we get a Ka-Chow? Are we getting Remy? So many questions I have. We won't get that information quite yet. We might get that information when we talk about Winterspell. So I'll see you guys in 3 months and maybe we'll be able to discuss. But in the meantime, I'm excited. I think it's fun. I mean, at the end of the day, it's fun to see movies that you don't know. For example, I need to watch Black Cauldron, but it's also fun to see movies you know and love. And who doesn't love Toy Story 1 through 3? Lots of people don't like 4, but I love Toy Story 1 through 3. And I'm very, very excited to see those characters and what kind of Pixar we get in there. I think it's just exciting. It's exciting as a player and as a Disney fan. So that's what we learned today in the Lorecast. I am very excited. I always get excited from the art to the gameplay to knowing what the promos are. It's all very exciting. And I personally, there's a shorter set. I think they normally say it's like exactly 3 months, but this was kind of condensed. So we're halfway through set champ season. We have 2 more weeks of that. We have Milwaukee coming up. And then after that, everybody get excited because it's time to get ready, get your binders ready, get your boxes ready, because it is time to go get the Whispers in the Well. So like I mentioned, it's coming out on November 7th in your local game stores and some of the park locations. You want to look that up online as far as where in the parks and when, if you'll be down there, where you can get that. And then on November 14th, that's a wide release. We'll be able to get it in stores like Target, Walmart, and also DisneyStore.com. So let me know below what you think. Are there any cards that you're excited about? Any mechanics? What are your thoughts? Have you seen Black Cauldron? Should I make sure to watch that tonight? Let me know below. But otherwise, there's always more room at the end. And if you don't want to find us, just take the second start of the right exit and head straight on till morning.